Welcome to Milking the Franchise, the Cash Cow Chronicles, where me and Chris watch
movies.
Hello,
You're bringing some
hello.
heat today, Tanner.
Am I bringing heat? Oh,
I like
yes.
it, dude. Yeah.
I'm in the zone. I'm all twisted. I'm ready to go.
Dude. Those
I'm
titties
wet
feeling
and wild.
twisted. I love it. I love it.
Thank you. Can you hear him twisting?
I can hear him
twisted
in the wind.
If you hear that scuffling on the mic, I'm sorry. My titties are twisted. Welcome.
Hi. Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah. Just spending some time with my family this week. It's been really nice, and getting all twisted, so I can be here to talk about it with you. How about you?
I'm doing good. Went camping on overnight backpack, so it was nice to get out in nature. It's been,
wow.
In this area where I live in Seattle, it's like you only have a few months a year to get out, so feels good. And luckily there's no tornadoes in this area.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, then we went and watched a movie where nature taught nature a lesson. You know what I mean?
It made me want to never leave the house ever again.
That's fair. Yeah.
So welcome to the show. It's called Milking the Franchise. If this is your first time listening, it's the show where we watch every movie in a franchise in order. We talk about it. We release surveys with everyone, and we ask you to play along and watch along. And what else do we do? We watch other IP that goes along with the franchise.
We try to just kind of like live within that franchise until we make it through all the movies. So last week we watched. Last week was a fun episode because we were in person for the first and so far only time we were sitting in the same room when we recorded.
A once a year thing, I'm thinking.
Might be a once a year thing, yeah. But we watched the 1996. It was 96, right? The original Twister movie with Bill Paxton and it's just Helen Hunt. Thank you. It was a really fun movie. Really silly. This one's a bit more grounded. And I don't know. But we'll dive into that soon.
It's got its truck implanted in the ground. It's so grounded. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes. I as soon as I said that, I'm questioning it because it's also ridiculous, but it's in its own ways. But
it's more realistic in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Yes. There's no houses rolling across the highway.
To its detriment, I would say.
We'll get into that though. One of the things we love to do is with each episode we put out a little survey just with kind of jokes and little things we found funny from each movie, and so we put that out in the show notes, so take a peek. This week's show notes will have a survey for Twisters, but we're going to talk about the responses we got last week from the movie Twister, singular, no S, get that S out of here. And then, if you want to hear the Twisters content, just skip ahead a couple minutes and we'll jump into Twisters just a few minutes.
Absolutely. All right, let's do it. We watched Twister last week. We asked you, there's a lot of crazy, like, debris, we're calling it, just like things that are flying at you in this tornado. They had cows, boats, trucks, drive-in theaters, tire rims, an entire oil tanker. Cary Elwes was in there flying around at one point.
Before he exploded. Yeah.
But our favorite one, the most votes went to an entire fully intact house.
Yeah.
You heard that right. You can hear us talk about it at length.
Yeah.
In last week's episode for Twister. It's fully intact. Every room was like still there, and the house is flying in a tornado.
Yep.
Amazing.
It's rolling across the highway like a dice.
And so we asked you after that, what other debris would you like to see in a tornado? We got bowling ball and bowling pins.
I'm imagining we talked a lot about how the tornado in the first one was like sentient and it was like attacking them. I'm imagining the bowling ball flying and hitting the pins midair. Like it's bowling with
It's
itself.
playing a game. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the house,
Mhm.
how the house is fully intact, like we mentioned. Like
Yeah.
it's literally like it's not like the drawers are falling over, the picture frames are falling off.
Right.
It's just like perfect set of a house.
Yep.
So along those lines, we also got a rock concert stage where the band is continuing to play while in the Twister.
Oh, I
Kind of
love
like,
that. That's great.
I was thinking like Fury Road, Mad Max Fury Road, and have
Yeah.
like just them rocking out on the guitar while they're in a Twister and going around.
I bet Slash would do that scene. Wouldn't he look great with his big hat?
He always looks great with his big hat, of course.
Yeah. He's not
That's
doing anything. Give him a call.
that's what Twisters was missing right there. Then we got the game Twister with people playing it. Same vibe.
Yeah.
And then it like picks up the Twister sheet or a mat or whatever, and they're just like they don't realize they're in the Twister.
I'm imagining one of the characters. It's harder to get like right foot red because that part of the mat is being pulled away by the Twister. It ups the difficulty of the game.
Oh my god, yeah, that's hard mode for sure.
Twister.
And then the last debris you'd like to see in the tornado, we got debris messing. I don't know about that one.
Oh my! All right. Hat tip to that one. It made me laugh.
All right, next question. Favorite tornado archetype. So yeah, we talked a lot about this having like monster movie, or movie monster, whatever you want to call it, attributes, right? So it's it can jump, it can kind of like disappear and reappear. We were talking about cloaking abilities and
they had names for them too.
Yeah.
Like they literally called this one's a sidewinder, this one is a jumper, this one is whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, the Sister Twister.
Sister Twister, that was a good one.
We got a tie between jumper and sidewinder on that one.
Oh, perfect.
And then corresponding question: what tornado archetypes and abilities would you like to see in the sequel? A rainbow nado. Sun hits it just right. So is it the whole tornado is like rainbow colored?
Yeah, it's like rainbow. Ooh. And it's
Ooh.
throwing out like pot of gold. There's just like gold leprechaun doubloons just kind of flying around. That's the debris.
I would like to see that. An entire like rainbow tornado. Sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Then we got quintupwisters.
Oh, good. Yeah, just add more.
Add more. And time traveling twister terminators.
Time traveling. It's a lot of alliteration. That's 4 T's.
That's 4 T's.
Time traveling twister terminators. Yeah, I'm on board.
All right, let's see. Similar to Bill Paxton had a
nice save.
A nickname Big Stream, as short for Big Extreme, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Very cool. That was his nickname. At one point, they talked about that. What would your tornado chasing name be? Gnarly Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
Chase. Simple.
Just Chase, yeah.
And Chubby Checker.
I feel like Chase would have been a good name. I didn't get that. Thank you. I feel like Chase would have been a good name for the Tyler character in this movie.
100%. That is a name for that kind of Arkansas boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
good old boy. Yeah. They missed out. See, that's the kind of thing. Twisters. It doesn't go crazy like that. It's more grounded. They're not going to call it Chase.
They're not.
Then we asked you to rate Twister,
which is why they should have let us write it. We obviously would have made a more insane pun-based movie.
Just a pun-based movie. We just walk into like a I don't know, producer's office or whatever, a pitch meeting, and be like, all right, just 4 words: time traveling twister terminators. That's all you got to say. And then they give us money. Give us not $200 million. We asked you to rate Twister, average about 4 out of 5 on that one.
It's a fun movie.
It's
a
very
fun
fun.
blockbuster.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Twister. Anything else you want to say on that before we move into the semi-sequel, the legacy sequel, whatever you want to call it?
I feel like we could have really stretched this out. I spent a lot of time this week thinking about like Sharknado, because I feel like a lot of these, there has been a lot of other tornado content since 1996. I think that has gone that more ridiculous campy route that we liked so much from the first one. But I don't know. I think I'm ready to kind of pivot into the new guy. Do you have anything you want to talk about before we get going?
No, I'd like to ground myself in reality and science. And talk about Twisters. Well, I will say you're talking about other movies. I mean, we watched The Core last night for our bad movie night, and just one of those disaster movies that I think was inspired by Twister and movies like that.
Big time, yeah.
The evolution of something like that. And it's not as good as Twister, I will say. But the destruction is there. I think just before we even get started on it, a movie like Twister, I want to see these big crazy moments, these big like batshit. I want to see the cow. I want to see, I want to see the house rolling through the tornado. And Twister's is more grounded. So
yeah, I think also, Tanner, we went to see this. So I was in Seattle last week to record with Tanner, and then we went to a 4DX showing of Twisters. And so I think too, just the fact that we went to the movie expecting campy over the top stuff, and like 4DX movies are way better with that ridiculous stuff. So I think we were both expecting it to be campy and over the top, and it's not really. It doesn't try to do that. I think it's successful in what it does do. But, I think when we watched it the first time, I was a little disappointed that it didn't have that stuff as much. But I watched it a second time just to kind of to prep for this. And I liked it more. I thought it was a pretty fun movie. But we'll dive into that now. Yeah.
Yeah. Just the 4DX stuff. I do think this is one of the movies where it truly enhances it in a lot of ways, but it changes the viewing experience on it completely. Cause I wanted the fucking thrills and the big craziness, and the 4D added to that. Want a lot.
And so much of this movie is like pickup trucks going over bumps, and that is really good in 4DX because they can really mimic the feeling of being in a pickup truck. Yeah.
Yeah. And the wind and the rain hitting you in the face constantly was really nice because it's super hot out in the summer here. And it was like refreshing every time I'd get hit with all that stuff. I was like, oh my God, this feels amazing. It's so hot in here. Yeah. So
now you're recording from a 4DX chair, right, Tanner? Your chair's moving side to side as you talk, and it's spraying mist at you.
I put up a fan, and I'm in my Rolly computer chair, and I'm in the shower right now. So I'm sliding back and forth, getting wet, getting windy.
Keeping it twisted, That's all. And then
I have my lights on strobe, so it's mimicking like lightning effects and stuff like that. I'm fully recreating it all. Yes.
I love this. Yeah.
So if the mic shorts out, I'm sorry. Twisters. Let's talk about Twisters.
Let's do it, dude.
Came out in 2024.
Hey, that's this year. Yeah.
Just a few days ago. We saw an early screening of it. Not because we're like some bigwigs in the industry or anything, but it was just available 2 or 3 days early. Because every movie comes out a couple days early nowadays. It's directed by Lee Isaac Chung, who is kind of an indie director. He directed the movie Minari with Stephen Yeun that came out last year, I think, and was an awards season movie. I can't remember if it won anything. I think it was nominated for screenplay and a bunch of stuff. I think it won something. And then just immediately given the reins to a $200 million blockbuster movie. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, well, let's start with Kate, right? This movie starts with kind of a flashback to a high school aged Kate, who's played by Daisy Edgar Jones. I thought she was pretty good in this movie. And in high school, she is doing some sort of storm chasing like project, and she's got this theory that she can harness tornadoes, or she can kind of calm them down so they aren't as destructive. So she's out in the fields with her team, and they're using basically.
Super
Like
absorbent polymers to decrease the moisture to
Yes.
see if they can collapse the tornado.
And do you remember where they got those polymers from? Because I thought that was a funny little touch.
No.
It's the filling to diapers, right? Because like the diaper stuff is like a really absorbent because it soaks up little kid pee. I did think though, like, my brother is now buying diapers. That's a really expensive way. That's an expensive material.
Because he's
Diapers are
old
not
and his
cheap.
bowels are going, or
Well, he had a baby, but maybe both. Yeah.
That's funny because they were handing out diapers when I walked into the movie.
Oh, they were.
Yeah, that's part of the 4DX experience.
Are you wearing one right now in the shower?
Yeah, my bum is super dry.
I love it.
Yeah, so we get this. It's kind of like the first movie where they have the ragtag group of friends, just all chasing NATOs, and they're a lot more fun as a group than maybe like later on in the movie. Gets a little bit more sciencey and stuff like businessy and all that. But these are like college kids, and one of them's hungover, and they're just kind of having fun. Kate's got her boyfriend there, who I don't know his name, but she's got like 3 or 4 friends here. And there's a little, I think it's the only one real like connection to the first movie. They have Dorothy. Dorothy is back in this opening scene, which is the canister of little balls that opens up and like measures tornado activity, right?
Yep. And that was a big plot point in the first movie, also called Dorothy. Same little sensor balls that they, have to get into the tornado so then they can kind of track its movement.
Yep.
And we also learn a little bit about Kate. She has the same Bill Paxton tornado prediction powers. She's like able to look at the storm and kind of predict where it's able to go, better than the machine. So everybody kind of looks to her to read the storm.
Yeah, so they got these chemicals, but they're mixing it with the first one was trying to measure the tornado with these balls and kind of like see how the inside works, and it's collecting data by being inside of the tornado, which had never been done. And this is kind of mixing that with the polymers, trying to stop it. It says they needed the data mixed with the chemicals, to see how to make it vanish, basically. So they're mixing the two new ideas. Is that right?
Yeah. And we also meet one character who's going to be around for the rest of the movie as well. They have a friend named Javi, and he's really into the kind of the data collection part of it. And Kate is much more just testing this theory with her polymers. She wants to help people, and Javi is much more about making sure that we get the data and we can kind of, if we can prove that the polymers are actually doing their job by showing that the tornado is falling apart. So he's part of the team, and he sticks around for most of the movie.
Yeah. So they head off right away into a tornado that they're chasing. They drive into the storm with the barrels full of polymers, and the trailer falls over, spilling some stuff. It does get sucked up into the sky, but it doesn't work. And I can't remember. It seems to make it stronger, or maybe the tornado just got stronger on its own. Do you know what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, she has a lot of guilt because her plan doesn't work and the tornado gets bigger. But I think it is like, it just doesn't work, and the storm does get bigger. But that's not because of what she put in there.
Okay.
But that was kind of how I read that scene. Yeah, but anyway, they do get the trailer like righted, and they're able to get everything in there. But the tornado gets really big, it gets really strong, and they have to actually end up running from their truck. and they're in this field, and they run and they see a bridge overpass, and so they can hide under the road, and there's 4 people that kind of run from the truck over to the bridge. And how'd that work out for everybody, Tanner?
Well, one guy gets taken and nobody even bats an eye.
Yep.
I don't know his name, but you kind of set up like they do a little bait and switch where they're like, oh, this is the crew. This is going to be the people in the movie. And then like all but Kate die. And Javi, who's away from the site a little bit, reading the data. But so the first friend gets taken, and then Sabrina the Teenage Witch gets taken next. She's in the show,
Is that
Sabrina show.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
And I was like, I recognize this girl. So it's one of those where it's like, oh, they've got a semi-famous girl. Maybe you think she's going to stick around, then they kill her off. And then her boyfriend as well gets taken at the last second, and they're huddling together under the bridge, and he gets taken as well. She kind of walks out, and she gets cut really bad on the leg and is wandering out after the aftermath and gets picked up by police. And then we cut to 5 years later.
Yeah. So obviously a very traumatic event. I think it's a pretty good origin story. The first one kind of did the same thing with with Helen Hunt as a little girl, like as a little girl. That's the first scene that kind of establishes this. And this is like, that. And then also it kind of builds on, it's got her boyfriend. So she's very close to this stuff. So I thought that was a pretty good origin story and a good way to start this. And then 5 years later, she has moved to New York City. So it shows, subway stuff and, New York, big city. And she's working as a meteorologist.
The forever 5th character, of course.
That's right. Yeah. And it lets Glenn Powell call her City Girl for the rest of the movie,
Absolutely.
Important plot point. So,
City Girl. How you doing, City Girl?
I'm good, City Girl. How you doing, City Girl?
A meteorologist. I'm good, City Girl. She's a meteorologist, I guess, right? I just wrote working in weather something. And, tornado-related stuff. And everyone but Javi has died, but he shows up randomly and says hi to her, He says that he was in the military. He felt so guilty. They haven't talked in a long time since the traumatic event. But he's got this new technology that he wants to present to her because, tornadoes are still out there. And it's time, Kate's the best that there ever was. So this new technology that he has is like military rocket scan tech that triangulates the, I don't know, sciencey terms, something like that. So basically it's like, is that right?
Great. Yes. Yeah, so, nailed it.
They have these 3 devices that's going to go on all 3 corners of a triangle around the tornado to measure it. She declines his invitation.
By triangulating the storm, they'll get the best ever, like a perfect scan of a tornado, and that will help them predict them better. That's kind of their play.
And he talks a little bit about it here, but he's like working for some company called Stormpar, and they're like, we'll talk about it more later, but they're funding this research as well. So they're invested a lot of money in it. So they get the best tech, and she declines joining him at first, and she goes to sleep and wakes up to another message from him of like, hey, a tornado just wrecked a town. Like, what he says is it's a once-in-a-generation tornado coming after people we love, but now we can fight back.
It's a pretty convincing argument. It's a little manipulative, but it gets the job done. And she decides that she'll take a week off from work and she'll head out to Oklahoma to chase storms with Javi.
And it's still I just love that it's still like we got to fight back from these tornadoes. It still has this monster movie vibe to it, but a lot more serious and grounded. And where do we go from here, Chris?
So they go to Oklahoma, and Javi picks her up. They're in a truck called Lion. So they're still using the Wizard of Oz kind of terminology on the trucks. and we meet the team. And so this Storm Power team is made up of a bunch of really smart people, PhDs. There's people from FEMA and the FBI. One of the guys went to MIT. All acronyms that are supposed to sound very impressive. Were you impressed by those acronyms?
Yeah, you got every letter in the alphabet.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they make that joke. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So they've got investors in this now, and there's people profiting off of it. And like you mentioned, they're all these Dodge Rams. It's a big Dodge Ram commercial. They've got the Lion, the Tin Man, and the Scarecrow are the three triangle points, and the three whatever devices that they're using, the scanners. And the Wizard is the home base. So they're really, they had Dorothy in the first one. They're still going with the Wizard of Oz stuff, but evolved. You meet some guy named Scott, who's kind of like the main businessman of the situation. He's like, I don't know what his role exactly is, but he's kind of like the villain. A little bit of this movie, would you say?
I would totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't really know exactly how they're profiting off of this yet, but we'll find out later. And then who shows up?
Oh, man. We get a scene where the hillbilly with a YouTube channel, as they refer to him, but Tyler Owens, and he's like a famous like tornado YouTuber.
Arkansas Tornado Wrangler.
That's right. Yeah.
They're selling T-shirts and mugs.
And he is played by the the A-list actor of the moment, Glenn Powell.
Impossibly handsome.
Impossibly handsome. Rolls in with a cowboy hat and a big red truck, and he's going to be the foil to Storm Parr.
So he does have these all these fans of his too. So they show up, they're filming, they're like live streaming this whole thing, and his line is, "If you feel it," and they respond, "Chase it." So he's got like little taglines. He's like really marketed this whole thing. And I did a little research about these types of people. There are YouTube tornado chasers specifically. Did you do any of this dive in?
Well, you sent me that one, and that guy was talking about he just does this, and he can make enough money selling the footage to different news organizations that it pay. That's just his lifestyle. That's his work. That's everything. Which is kind of crazy. And through this part, I was like, man, they should do. And maybe I'm doing spoilers here because I know we talk later about like where it should go, but I would love like a TV series that focuses more on like that culture. I think that culture is really fascinating.
I feel like they have maybe I need to look it up, but they have like they could have like a Deadliest Catch type reality show surrounding these types of people. That seems more like the lane that it would go in.
Sure.
Yeah. But they do. I mean, this guy has a channel. The one that I found here, there's probably other ones, is Reed Timmer. So sounds like a country boy.
That sounds
name.
about right. Yeah.
Reed Timmer. And he's chasing tornadoes. He even has this car, this tornado tank that he built that like drills into the ground just like the truck in this movie. Yeah, they have all these people that do these things that they do have like the drill into the ground technology. They have these trucks that are like full of weather reading stuff. So, and a lot of this stuff I've found out that, is largely inspired by the original Twisters movie. Like the amount of people that started like researching tornadoes and chasing tornadoes went up like exponentially after the first one.
I bet we're going to get another big spike after this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like an EF5 level spike.
Ooh, look at you and your terminology. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, that's another thing about this movie, Chris, that really upped the game. It's no longer F1 to F5. It's EF1 to EF5.
Ooh, what's that E doing?
It's enhancing.
Oh,
So it's called, okay. So the F scale is called the Fujita scale, or Fujita. It was introduced in 1971 by Ted Fujita, and it measures, like they kind of mention in this movie, the destruction of a tornado or storms. not necessarily like the speed or the size of it. That doesn't really matter, but it's more like after the fact how devastating it was.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, and so the Fujita scale was decommissioned in 2006 after the first Twister movie came out, and now it's the enhanced Fujita scale. I don't know the exact differences, but now it's called EF, and it's based on damage. I think before, actually, now that I look at it, no, it's always based on damage. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, that's why they say EF5 or EF whatever in this movie, and the first one was F.
You're bringing some receipts to the episode this week. I love it, Tanner.
I did a little tornado diving. I got some more milk.
Yeah.
Tornado milk later.
Great. Can't wait. Tornado milk.
All right. So yeah, Glenn Powell shows up. And they're both kind of like they're just at like a rest stop, kind of like in the first movie where everyone's kind of congregating. There's fans of his. There's probably other chasers, like low-level chasers, but he's like the big one, and then the Stormpar group. And it's kind of like the first movie as well, where there's two teams kind of chasing towards tornadoes, and they're playing against each other. This one eventually, of course, they end up romanticizing together and being a little bit more together than the last one.
Yeah.
But that's where we're going.
If we didn't make it clear at the top, plenty of spoilers. We're just talking about this movie. So, yeah, at this point in the movie, Kate is, a little hesitant with Tyler. He ingratiates himself throughout the movie. But at this point, he looks like kind of an opportunist. They're selling T-shirts. He's like this internet celebrity, and she's down there because she thinks that the work that she's doing could actually help some people. And so she's kind of put off by him. And they have their first kind of scene together. She's off like playing with a dandelion to see what the wind's doing and like watching the storm, doing her storm reading thing. And he walks over to talk to her. She kind of reads the sky, and there's two different places they can go. And she tries to send him to the wrong one. But he's actually a pretty good storm chaser himself. And so they both recognize that which one of the storm cells is the one that's going to turn into a tornado. They gather their teams, and we're off and running.
Yeah. So there's one with like two like kind of medium-sized tornadoes that are like for sure like a sure bet, and then there's one that's like could be like a massive like one, but it may not develop, I guess. So it's like a hit or miss one or a for sure bet tornado. And she tries to get him to go to the big one because it's like you're gonna get a lot more like crazy. If it hits, you're gonna get a lot more views because this will be really crazy. Yeah, and you were talking about the different teams. I don't think we're going to get all the characters straightened out because maybe his entire team, but there's like 4 or 5 people on it that all have their own little personalities, but you don't develop them too much, And there's no names. It's not like Philip Seymour Hoffman is in this movie, so I don't really know who these people are.
I will say one of the dudes, the black guy on Tyler's team, Dexter, is played by a guy named Tunde Adembimpe. Who's the lead singer for the band TV on the Radio, which is a band that I like a lot.
What, really?
And yeah, I found that on the internet this week. Isn't that kind of crazy?
Does he act usually or like often?
They're on hiatus, so yeah, he's like doing other stuff right now.
Oh wow, he's in a lot of movies. I had no idea he was an actor.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So, but he doesn't have a ton to do, but his scenes are nice. And there's and then Tyler has his whole team. There's like 5 or 6 dudes. I think outside of him, the other guy that we should probably highlight, there's a British how would you even like a journalist? Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep, who's coming along for the ride so he can write a story about Tyler Owens and storm chasing.
His name is Ben, and he's kind of the fish out of water person. He's like the Jamie Gertz from the first movie, where like he's scared. He's more scared than anyone else, and kind of just like, why am I here? But he's making a good story and chasing American storm chasers. That's what he's making a story on. So we're off now. We're off and running. We got the caravans going. Another caravan movie, and. Where do we go? Yeah, I think they're kind of chasing it. There's a lot of chasing going on. They get 2 of the trucks down with the little radars in the 2 corners, and then the third one they kind of fuck up, I believe. right?
Yeah, Kate kind of reads the storm wrong at the very end, and they end up putting the third sensor too far from the tornado, so they're not actually going to get the data that they were hoping to get from this storm. And while they're kind of sitting there, it's her and Javi by their truck, and they've kind of screwed this thing up. And Tyler blows past with his big red truck straight into the bottom of the storm, and you see him driving in there, and all of a sudden there's fireworks shooting up inside the tornado. So it kind of seems like these guys are just there to play. They came out to make their fireworks in a tornado video.
Yeah, they're chasing thrills and views on YouTube. Mm-hmm. They're not in it for the science.
Ooh, that's nice, Tanner. I like that. I like
thrills
that.
And views. Yeah.
Chasing those thrills and views.
It looks cool, from a movie perspective. Like, yeah, they light all these cool fireworks in the tornado, and it's like, it does look kind of like, I would like to see a video of that. I don't know if that's ever been done.
I kind of want to see that too. I don't know. Does it actually work? Does that part work? Maybe that dude with the YouTube channel you were just talking about can get us some answers.
I need to do no, I don't want to do a deep dive on Reed Timmer. We'll see. Maybe in the recap episode we'll do that.
Or Tanner, maybe this is your future career. Maybe you could start chasing tornadoes.
Yeah, sure. What's a weather effect I could chase here in Seattle? Rain clouds?
Yeah, like the fog clouds. Just chase fog.
Fog chaser.
What would happen if we shot fireworks up into the fog?
You just can't see them. So yeah, that happens, and they're kind of like, she sees, that they're just in it for the thrills or whatever. Kind of cuts to later that night, and there's the Tornado Motel. That's not what it's called, but it's like a gathering of all the tornado chasers are all there, and it feels like a festival vibe kind of thing. And they're all staying at the same motel, and you meet more of the crew. You get a little bit of back and forth between Kate and Tyler.
Yep.
Yeah, you find out that Tyler did study meteorology, so he does know something. So there's like these little building blocks of her like disarming against him, and like, you can tell that this is set up to be like a romantic part of the movie, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that's a big part of this movie. It is kind of a romance in between all this twisting, Yeah. What else happens at that scene? Anything?
Not a ton. I know, Javi asks if she wants to hang out. I feel like Javi is romantically interested in Kate, but she's not there for that. And instead of doing that, let's see. No, that's a little later on. I'm sorry, I'm out of order. So Javi asked her to hang out, but she ends up going and chatting with Tyler and those guys instead. This movie's a little different because the bad guy storm chasers in the first movie were Cary Elwes, and those guys were just villains, just straight up from the jump. They are the bad guys. The storm kills them in like a very violent way. But in this movie, the other storm tracing team is actually kind of the good guys. They're the rough and tumble, kind of like very likable crew, Yeah.
Yep. I mean, there is a villain at some point, but he's not like played. It's not like they got to kill him off kind of villain. It's more like a business villain. I think the next morning she goes to a little diner where Javi is having a meeting with an investor in Stormpar, and they're giving him showing him the data and like all the wreckage of these homes and like how they need to swoop in. And basically what they're doing is swooping in after a tornado hits and getting them to like sell the land and like the property to them, right?
Right.
Is that what's happening?
Yeah, and they're even tracking which properties are like underinsured. So they're really looking to like it's a pretty predatory enterprise. They're coming in to buy these like these people's property right after a tornado has come through and kind of taken most of what they have. So it's not great. They're kind of the bad guys.
Yeah, and there's the frame of like mine where Javi's kind of being like, well, we're helping these people, we're giving them assurance like afterwards to like get money, but I'm sure they're like giving them less than it's worth because they're desperate, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And what was I going to say? I lost it.
Great. I'm
but
sure
she kind of sees that
whatever it was.
She's like, she's a little, this is where she's kind of turning a little bit like, oh, this, I don't know if I trust this like investing crap. She's not into that whole thing. Oh, I was going to say they're fine. Like they're fine investing all this money in this technology and trying to read the tornadoes. It's not just swooping in. They want to know when the tornado's coming so they have advantage on where to, take advantage of people, if that makes sense. Right.
Yeah. It's kind of like, like ambulance chasers or like those lawyers,
night crawlers.
Like, they're kind of doing that. Yes, exactly. So, it's not illegal, but it's certainly pretty skeevy,
Yeah. So yeah, we get a little more flirtations between the two, I believe, right?
Yep. They kind of flirt a little bit, and Tyler's talking trash about Stormpar, and he's like, I don't want to ask you where you're going because you're going to lie to me again because of what they did before. And but yeah, they're kind of they're building their little romance, and we get another chase scene. There's another storm, and so this one reminded me a lot of the first one where it's like the cars are literally side by side, and the one team is blocking the other team and trying to cut them off and stuff. And they go off, and at one point Kate is reading the storm and kind of tells her team to turn, and Tyler picks the other storm, and they go out, and it follows Tyler, and he sets down. It's the first time we actually get to see those screws out of the bottom of the truck. There's these just giant, like 4-inch across screws that are set into the side of the truck, and so you can put them into the ground so the truck won't lift off. And just as the storm's about to get there, his team is super amped, and the storm kind of just dissipates all at once. And so Tyler picked the wrong storm, and Kate didn't. And so then we cut over and we see what's going on with them. They're putting down the sensors that we saw before to try and get their triangle based reading of this tornado. They get all 3 down, but before they can get as much data as they want, the tornado yanks one and kind of starts coming towards them, and they're barely able to escape. They hop back in their car and they go in reverse, and are able to get far enough away that when the tornado passes, it doesn't suck them up.
Is this where the chicken lands on their car? This is one of the few like big debris moments where a chicken coop flies through the car, and he's like, "I think I killed some chickens."
This is that exact spot. Yes,
and the chicken lands on the car afterwards. I was thinking like right before this, when they're talking, she's like it sets it up that she's like a storm whisperer. She can like read the storms, and he's the wrangler. So I was thinking it's kind of these two sides of it, where she's the whisperer and he's the wrangler. Put them together, and oh boy.
Ooh.
Yeah, and he's
got
like
a whisper wrangler, a wrangle whisperer.
Yeah. He says that tornadoes are like, they don't really know how they start, and they're kind of like part science, part religion in this scene as well, which I think is funny. This next scene, the tornado goes through, they don't get sucked up, everything's fine, except for it heads for this small town, and like, we got to go help people. It kind of ravages this, so it's the post aftermath of this. They show up and like try to help out a little bit. And this is where you see some of the dynamics changing. And maybe this is where the movie lost me just a little bit. Because they go there to help, and this movie sets up that every situation is not like this isn't really a disaster movie as much as like a hero movie. You know what I mean? Like these,
definitely.
She's going to like help everybody everywhere. She's got to help them and save like every part of the disaster is them like trying to save everybody around them. Like, let's get in here, like everyone get down, like that kind of stuff, rather than just chasing and destruction and just trying to gather the data. They do that as well, but I think it's focused a little bit more on the savior factor.
I bet that story I bet that's a better story for people that actually live in that part of the country. You know what I mean? It's not just interlopers. It's people coming and trying to make a difference. Those are the storm chasers that people there probably appreciate a little more.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the right thing to do for sure. I'm just talking as like a movie watcher.
Right. It's very different than the first one where it's just kind of chasing.
Just chasing and just like destruction. Kind of, it's a popcorn destruction movie like we've seen many times.
Sure.
But anyway, so they show up at this place and you find out that she is kind of defending Stormpar, and Tyler says, "Do you know who you're chasing for?" And kind of tells her that, they're trying to profit off these people. And then she's like, "Well, you're the one selling your T-shirts and mugs with your face on it." And then you find out a minute later that the proceeds from all these items that they're selling are going towards tornado relief packages. So you find out they're actually doing good and not just profiting off of and selling T-shirts. Yeah. Did I get that right? Oh, one thing I did want to notice or did want to say is in this, they got like food packages for everybody. So they're handing these out,
right.
Using the money to buy food and give out food packages and water and stuff like that to the people who survived. And they've got every package comes with a bag of honey barbecue flavor twists chips, which I noticed because it's like my favorite chip brand. My favorite chip of all time is these flavor twists, and I just was talking about them recently how much I love them, and I saw them in this movie, and like they're called twists, and I feel
they're
like
the twister of snack food for sure. Yes,
like that has got to be like a little joke from the people who made the movie, because that seems a little too much. Like if you had just had your house devastated by a tornado, you wouldn't want to eat flavor twists, right? A little reminder of the tornado that just devastated your town.
What if it was flavor twists and then Twizzlers Twisters, the the ones I'm talking about, like as the dessert to wash it down?
Yeah, it's like they're handing out games of Twister, like here, this will help pass the time,
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that they had flavor twists in there.
Absolutely.
I'm sure somebody was getting a real kick out of that little item.
Can I just say, Tanner, because I was in Missouri a little bit after a tornado a bunch of years ago, and what I didn't see was hot dogs. When I was in Missouri, that was the main food that we ate for like 3 weeks. Was just hot dogs. Yeah, because you can pack a grill and a cooler, and then you can feed a ton of people really fast.
Yeah, and it's like,
and so like
they don't go bad. They're just, I mean, they're just like, yeah.
And they're cheap and like they're pretty good when you're there, but like after 3 weeks of eating hot dogs, it was like, oh my god, I need something else. Pizza? Can somebody bring pizza next time? Like
anything. Another funny thing about this little moment when she's arguing with Tyler is like, he's like, whatever. At the end of it, he says, whatever. I got to go find this dog. And we talked last week about how they're always saving the dog. They make sure to show them saving the dog in every moment. And they added this.
Yeah, you're totally right.
I think this was a connection to the first movie in a little jokey way, where he's got to go find a dog. And then in the next scene, when he shows up at her hotel room, she's like, did you find the dog? And he says, of course I found the dog.
Yeah. Dogs can't die. Just your friends from high school. Those are the only people that could die in this movie.
I felt like that was a thread, like a small connection to the original of like saving the dog. Anyway, anything else you want to say with that whole scene there?
No, I think that was good. It's further, like Kate is slowly starting to like identify more with Tyler and his crew, and she's starting to see kind of the dirty underbelly of the funding that's kind of going along with Javi's Stormpar organization. But yeah, let's jump back in. As Tanner mentioned, Tyler shows up at her hotel room to chat a little bit and kind of convinces her to go out and takes her to a rodeo.
He's like, I got
a little bit more.
Got something that I think might help, and he takes her to a rodeo. I don't know what's helping. How's that helping?
No, I don't know. He wanted to take her on a date. I think that's all it is.
I know. He's like, I got something that I think it might help. What are you?
It's
helping?
in my pants. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and we find out there that he used to do rodeo. So he used to do rodeo. He used to ride the bulls and everything, and he got hit in the head a couple times, so he ended up quitting. But his whole mantra there is kind of, you don't face your fears, you ride them. He's a cowboy through and through.
Tornadoes, bulls, same thing.
Same thing.
You
Same
don't
diff,
face your
babe.
fears, you read them.
Yep.
And you find out she is not a city girl. She was born in Oklahoma, just like nearby there, right?
Yep. Doesn't stop him from referring to her as city girl for the rest of the movie, but she's actually a local. She's not a New York City girl.
Mm-hmm.
And as they're at the rodeo, just enjoying a nice date, enjoying each other's company, what interrupts them, Tanner?
Tornado?
Yep, again, it's they're just coming and coming and coming. So everybody kind of runs, everybody takes off. They spot a hotel nearby, so they run over there to hide. There's kind of a funny scene with somebody at the front desk, like complaining about the Wi-Fi being off and stuff, and saying he's going to give them 2 stars. And I'm in line, wait your turn. While this giant, EF5 storm is coming outside.
Yeah, they get there again. It's them saving all the people that they find. They find a family and save them. Their plan here is, so it's like, destroys the rodeo, kills some people, but their plan is to hide in an empty swimming pool. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
also in the empty swimming pool, there's a bunch of exposed pipework. It's like the pump room is in the pool. And I don't think I've ever seen a pool that actually works that way. But
so did the tornado,
minor little critique, but like,
did the tornado suck up all the water? Is that why there's no water in there?
I don't know.
Would a
swimming pool full of water, would that be a safe place to hide from a tornado? Do you think?
Well, it can't be any different than a empty one. Why would that help things being like 8 feet down? Is that really going to solve everything?
Well, I guess I'm just imagining you could like dive down when the tornado's there and it would like go over the top, but maybe that wouldn't work at all.
Maybe.
I
don't know. Maybe it sucks up all the water into it.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. But luckily they hide in the pool with the family, and a truck gets blown over and like leans basically right over them, kind of shielding them from everything. Luckily. So yeah, they save the day again. And let's see what happens after that, Chris.
Well, Javi shows up and he's a little butthurt that she was hanging out with Tyler and not hanging out with him. And they start kind of arguing a little bit. She's not happy about the funding for Stormpar, and he thinks that she's not, she's compromised because she's working with the enemy and stuff. And so she gets pretty pissed off and basically takes one of the Stormpar trucks and goes to see her mom. Because she's from the area, so she basically just goes home. She's kind of quit Stormpar, and she needs a break. This is all too much.
Yep, she goes home, and her mom is played by Maura Tierney from Liar Liar, and a bunch of stuff. I hadn't seen her in a long time, but I've always liked her. And you kind of get a glimpse at their house. She's got her little science barn, and it's been kept that way for over 5 years, I guess. So you see like an old videotape, I guess, that she's watching, or like back when her boyfriend was alive 5 years ago, of them messing around and doing all their research in this old barn on her mom's property. So yeah, she's got like a whole model town and like fake tornado stuff, like simulating everything. She's a real genius, it seems like.
It really does seem like that.
I mean, this is a elaborate little barn laboratory or whatever.
Yeah, for a high school science project, this is very involved.
Is it high school?
I thought she was in high school when all that stuff went down, but maybe it's a college thing. I'm not really sure.
Well,
yeah,
I know when everyone died, that was definitely college, because she was trying to get a funding for a grant for her research project. That's part of the fight that they had with Javi just before. And Javi got mad at her for like, she's like, you're profiting off of it. And he's like, I'm trying to help people. You're the one who's, we all our friends got killed because of you, is what he says, because of your little research project. And that's why they have a minor falling out for a minute. But, emotions were high, and it's not like they're rational in this. Some fights in movies like this could be totally irrational, like we're done. But I feel like they're this movie is grounded, so they have like a more grounded approach to arguments and stuff like that, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's at home at the model town and the barn, and Tyler shows up randomly. How did he find her?
They explained it later, but basically one of the people on his team recognized her from the news. So they figured out her name and he figured out where she lived, but he just kind of shows up. And, you know, mom invites him to stay the night. They have dinner together. And he basically, this is the first he's hearing of her ideas. Once again, that's using those like polymers to suck the moisture out of a tornado and make the tornado collapse. So this is the first he's hearing of all that stuff. But he thinks that the science might be good enough to work. Even though she is still feeling guilty about what happened last time that, you know, she tried her science.
She says, in the moment I got it wrong. And so she's, having those
doubts.
You know, doubts about herself and her science. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is where we learn about the EF rating and the damage and all that. We get some data and some stuff like that. And he stays the night, but there's no romance. Unfortunately, not yet.
No.
And he's leaving early in the morning. And did I miss anything from that scene at night?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's just kind of tense between her and her mom. And, you know, but I think her mom is happy to have him there because she wants her little girl to have a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And, in the morning, he makes to leave. And she has kind of rethought everything over the night, and she wants to, you know, kind of see if this thing works. If you think this might work, let's try it. And downstairs in the barn, they still have like dozens of barrels of that stuff. They just still have it, you know.
Yeah.
I feel a little guilty for my parents having like a box of my old T-shirts and whatever in my house, but you know, she's keeping dozens of barrels filled with diaper powder in her parents' place. So they grab all that stuff, load it up with his red truck, and you know, they go drive out towards a storm. There's another tornado coming.
Yeah, there's a little comedy scene in the truck where he's got all these like buttons and things where that, you know, it does the drill, it sets off flares, it's like a boom button that just like sets off fireworks or flares or whatever. So he's got all these switches and she's just like randomly pressing things and he's like, have you ever been in a car before? Which that was pretty funny. And yeah, like you mentioned, they drive into the storm with these barrels. They screw the truck in. And so we're kind of mixing all their different techniques here, and they release the barrels, but the tornado disappears, right? Before they can do anything with it. Is that right?
Well, I think it sort of looks like it's starting to work, but it doesn't quite. And basically they come to the realization that the model might not be working, or, you know, maybe it's not sucking enough water out of the tornado. So they're going to have to revisit it. It's not quite game ready yet. And they still
need to build a better model is all.
Yeah.
And they're eating, kind of like their relationship's growing a little bit. They're definitely like, you know, they like each other now. And the next day, or maybe, I don't know when it is, but Javi shows up at her house as well and apologizes and ends up giving her all the data. So they need this triangulation data that they've gathered with StormPar to add to their previous data, and like now they're going to try to figure out a better way to do it, like enhance what her previous ideas, right?
Exactly right. Yeah.
And
so it's with the help of Javi's data that they're able to basically reconfigure the chemical composition of the stuff that they're throwing into the storm, and also use some of Tyler's rockets. So like, you know, it's teamwork, baby. Everybody has a part to play.
Yeah. And Javi says that he's like, you know, I basically took this money because, you know, they have money to help fund this research. You know, that's why, even though they may not be the morally righteous group, they do have the money to help fund this research. And overall, the data helps them create a new whatever absorbent diaper powder, and
Mhm.
I don't know exactly what they changed in this. There's like some sexual tension. There's some sciencey stuff going on. There's this kind of a bunch of little scenes here of that. They talk about silver iodine, sodium polycarbonate.
Isn't there always sexual tension when there's science stuff going on though? Let's be real.
Well, I
The
did write
sexiest
down
of subjects.
we need to absorb their sexual chemistry with super absorbent polymers. Um, yeah, they mentioned the solution is silver iodine mixed with sodium polycarbonate, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how any of this works or how they got to that point, but that's what happens, right?
That's it. Yep. I
She
can't
joins
speak
the
to the
crew.
science of that, but I've read a couple articles this week, and it seems like this is like not real science, but it's not completely implausible either. I think it's good enough science for a movie.
Yeah, I think they definitely worked with scientists. I read that were like, this is like in theory possibly possible to stop a tornado by absorbing the water, but it would take so much of this stuff to do it, and it would take like 20 minutes for it to all absorb, which is time it doesn't have.
Right.
And also in this article that I read, they mentioned like the Earth has these natural disasters and these things to try to like right the imbalances or like the magnetisms of the Earth's poles and stuff like that. And they're worried that if they start stopping these things, the energy will come out in other ways, if that makes any sense.
Whoa.
But it's like, yeah,
Okay.
there's like, if we could stop it, should we? Because it's like, if you could
It might be like
let's plug up a volcano. Great, no volcano, but then will that just burst underground somewhere and like cause an even worse problem and like the core of the Earth, or maybe the core will stop spinning, Chris, just like in the core.
Just like in core, you're just have core on the mind right now, don't you?
I am eating an apple. So anyway, that's what I read, that they aren't even sure that stopping it is good because the Earth could work.
It might be like a release valve that's important for the atmosphere, like that,
which is a setup for a movie. Maybe even Geostorm does something like this, where they try to control the weather, and then like it starts causing worse problems because the Earth isn't. It's like if you hold in your farts, you're going to spontaneously combust. It's like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You've heard that theory before.
PSA for the listeners: don't hold in your farts. Yeah. Do we want to jump back in?
It is the same argument. I mean, that's the same idea.
Oh, definitely.
You try to like plug something up, it's going to cause a bigger problem somewhere else. Anyway, so that's where I was going with it.
No. I totally agree with you. Yeah.
And we find out here that stopping tornadoes would be bad for business, wouldn't it, for these guys? So why would they want to stop a tornado? Because they're trying to the storm power company is trying to profit off of it.
Well, but I think they could profit off this science too. You could sell this stuff to communities, and for Kate and Javi and for Tyler, like, think how cool of a video you could do if you literally stopped a tornado.
Yeah. But then
I think it makes sense
if you were able to stop all tornadoes, storm power would go out of business. It's not in there. It's like the war machine or whatever. You got to keep having. Yeah.
Are you coming out pro storm power right now? You're looking out for their bottom line.
I'm saying they're evil, greedy corporations that want the storms they want the destruction so they can profit off of it.
Right. Okay.
I'm more conspiratorial than anything in this situation.
Yeah.
Anyway, so where do we go from here?
Well, we're kind of in the last little big set piece of this movie. They head out after the storm one more time, and now they think that they have the chemical composition right to actually bring down a tornado. So Javi's out there with one of the trucks from Storm Power, and Tyler and Kate are out there too. Javi's truck gets flipped by this twister, and the twister like finds its way into like a natural gas processing plant, and
yes,
there's a huge, like it. What did you say? Sorry.
Oh, you said you'd like pause after the chemical plant thing, so I thought I lost you.
Oh yeah, sorry. No, and it basically sucks up all the gas from this gas processing plant and becomes just this giant inferno fire twister. And I was so amped when that first happened. I wish that they'd used it a little more. The fire twister is super badass.
Kind of a letdown. The fire tornado is just like, nothing really. It's cool in the moment, but then nothing comes of it. They showed it in the trailers, which is like got me really hyped. Like, oh fuck, we have fire tornadoes. Like, this is like,
yeah, dude.
What are the levels we're gonna go in this movie? And it kind of just fizzles out after it destroys the refinery.
I wanted them to make their own water twister and have them battle like battle bots, you know, which I think just shows me going to a 4K movie and having seen the first one. Like, that's the entertainment that I wanted from this. Sorry, 4DX. But that does not happen, amazing, unfortunately. Right? Wouldn't that be crazy?
Yeah. Oh my god. So they can stop tornadoes and create them. That's like where. Oh, that's an idea for a movie. Yeah, somebody who can like create tornadoes and like destroy towns, like a superhero movie or something. Tornado Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, what else? Oh, okay, so Javi like gets knocked over during this fire tornado scene, but luckily, very similar to in the first movie, parts of the oil refinery knock his car upright, and he's able to get out. Remember in the first movie how the oil tanker like knocked them upright, and they were able to escape.
And then in the first one, the oil tanker landed in front of them and caught on fire. Unfortunately, no such ridiculous stunt here. But Javi is back, wheels down, and he's able to drive his truck out of there.
He mentions right after that it's shifting as well. So like this is another moment I feel like is kind of a nod to the first movie where it's got like shifting powers or shape jumping. It's like it's jumping, it's shifting, it's that kind of thing. But it doesn't really play out in that exciting of a way. So now it's shifting into a larger tornado, I believe an EF5, and it's headed towards some town.
That's right. And so they basically all decide they need to get into the town and help. So Javi has a little moment here where he quits Stormpar because the guy tells him he needs to go pick that they need to not worry about that. They need to go back and, focus on their data, focus on Stormpar stuff. And he's feeling like a little guilty about that. So he wants to go into town to help. So he quits. And Kate and Tyler go straight into town and start loading everybody into a movie theater as a place to hide from the storm. Anything in through here?
They say like everyone into the movie theater, and they actually like in the trailers for this movie, the TV spots. That's like how the trailer starts, where it's that guy saying everyone to the theater. And it's like literally trying to get people to go see the movie in the theater, in the market. Like it's a brilliant marketing move. They use that line, right?
Yeah, that's pretty clever.
Yeah, and I wonder if that was planned in this moment. It's like let's get people in the theater in this moment, and it'll kind of because the box office is kind of struggling, and I wonder if they kind of are like, well, let's have a moment where they're going to a theater and we can use that. You know what I mean? Or it just was serendipitous and they used it that way later.
I think it was a little bit of that, and also a little bit, after the tornado comes through town, there's that moment when the movie screen has been ripped out and they look out through the movie screen. I feel like that was like a pretty cool visual moment. You know what I mean? That. And I feel like they might have built backwards from that. Yeah.
And it looked like that was what was playing on the screen, sort of, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So they're all headed to this town. Like we said, things are getting ripped up. Did you mention the businessman getting left back with Javi? Javi, like, whatever his name was, Scott or something like that. He is like, I don't care about the people. And Javi wants to go save and help out at this town while the tornado's coming. And he gets left in the dust and he just kicks mud up on him and leaves him in the street. So Javi is fully like anti-Stormpar now as well.
Yep.
So how does this destruction scene happen here, Chris?
Well, the storm's coming. A big piece of I think it's a big piece of building or maybe part of a truck falls on Tyler and pins him to the ground.
Trolley car.
Trolley. Thank you. Yeah, and he's pinned to the ground, and it's not looking good. Like the big water. What are those things called? Like a water tower is kind of like lurching, and it looks like it might tip. The storm's coming, and Tyler can't move, and so Kate's out there trying to get him out. And she's not able to do much until Javi shows up just in time, and they're able to get him kind of get him free just as the water tower is collapsing. And so I don't know. I thought that was one of the cooler visuals from this scene, like just this giant water tower tipping and making a huge mess. From there, Javi and Tyler run into the movie theater, and Kate goes and grabs Tyler's truck and drives it into the storm all by herself. And so she's going in to see if this, if her theory is going to work, it would save this town. And so she drives out into the storm, sets down the screws, and starts launching the rockets and opens the barrels, like does all the stuff. And it doesn't work right away. We have a cut scene back into the movie theater with the screen getting ripped out and people kind of freaking out. It was Frankenstein playing, and I don't know.
Definitely like the movie monster kind of parallel going on there. Yeah,
exactly right.
Yeah, it's kind of like
that was a fun movie to be playing.
Oh, definitely. Just as everything is really going wrong, like she gets in there, things aren't opening quite right. She's like struggling with a latch or something like that. People are getting sucked out of the movie theater. None of the main characters, but right at the last second, one of the girls that's on Tyler's team is getting lifted up in the air, and he's holding on to her while like barely holding on with his foot to one of the movie seats. Everything's getting torn out, and just at that moment, right when everything's like about to be fucked, she unleashes these polymers, the diaper absorbents, and it goes up into the tornado and stops it.
Yep.
It worked.
Her science worked.
They've tamed the tornado, Chris.
They wrangled it.
They wrangled it all right. She rode her fears to success.
Yep. If you feel it, chase it, is what I always say. Right, City Girl?
I have heard you say that, City Girl.
I say it all the time, City Girl. Yeah, and that's kind of the end of this big scene. Javi and Tyler go find her, and they have a moment. Her idea worked. Her science worked. She can kind of move out from underneath this cloud of guilt that she's had from her, the tornado that went wrong in the opening sequence of the movie. And, they saved a bunch of lives in this town. Yay.
Yeah. Yay.
Yeah.
So the little epilogue here kind of, she's getting dropped off at the airport, going to go back by Javi, and is going to go back to her old life in New York. But Javi says, like, back in New York, they're going to say that it was the fire refinery, all these other reasons for why it stopped. But we got to prove, that it was your technology that stopped the fire or the tornado.
Yep.
Then we get a little cameo here from an actor, Paul Scheer, is there directing traffic, which I thought
so funny to see him.
He does a bad movie podcast called How Did This Get Made? And it's like, I don't know if that was some kind of like nod to that, where it's going to be like this cheesy epic movie and he tried to get into it. You know what I mean? It ended up probably better than a movie that would be on that show. But anyway, I wasn't sure if there's a connection there or not.
A funny little comic relief cameo, though. He gets a couple good lines in there.
And Tyler shows up as well. And is he talking to Javi when he says this? Because he says, or maybe Javi says, if you feel it, you should chase it. And now they're hinting at the love connection, right? They're using the tornado parallel, but this is for like, if you feel that connection, you should chase it. And one of the
there's an EF5 raging in his heart, Tanner.
Exactly.
It's in his heart.
Yeah, emotionally fulfilled 5.
That's what EF stands for. Emotionally fulfilled.
In the love context, what does EF5 stand for? So yeah, Oh God, Chris, this is probably the most ridiculous part of the movie for me. Um, what does he do when he decides he wants to chase
He
after
uses
love?
those sweet, sweet truck screws one more time to bolt his car through the asphalt at the airport, and he runs in after her. She's still standing, kind of figuring out where she needs to go to get on her plane, and they kind of lock eyes. And she turns around, and she's going to stay in Oklahoma.
Well, they announce over the loudspeaker too, right at that second. They don't really say much, I don't think, but
Yeah,
all the flights have been grounded due to storms. So
yeah,
it's like, oh well, we're either gonna go chase storms together right now, or she's at least not gonna be leaving.
yeah.
But dude, Chris, he would be in jail for what he did there, screwing
I think
his
so.
truck into the concrete at an airport, dude. You can't do that anywhere, let alone an airport. I mean,
Yeah, it's like a terrorist threat, I'm sure.
oh my God, you'd be
Put you on
tackled
the
instantly.
list.
Paul
Yeah,
Scheer should have just tackled the shit out of him right there, and like
yeah.
citizens arrested him. But they don't follow up on that at all. And the movie
They
ends.
also don't kiss. At no point in this
I
movie do
know.
they like consummate their flirty little thing with any more
Yeah.
than like smoldering gazes, you know?
I think if they make a sequel to this movie, it'll start off with like a real hot sex scene, and they're like, "See,
Just hardcore pornography. Yeah.
they've been
Yeah.
together the whole time. You didn't see him kiss, but now the sequel, see him fuck." And so the movie ends. Basically, there's some montaging going on at the end where you do see some story points, where it shows that Ben has written his story. There's little clips of like a newspaper story, and it turns out it's mostly about Kate and not Tyler. So you see that, and then that was the British journalist guy.
Right. Yep.
And then you also see clips of Javi, Kate, and Tyler working together. So now they have a new team, and they're all three working together. And it kind of just shows us some like newspaper clippings and little moments while the credits are rolling. And that's that.
Great.
That's Twisters.
Twisters. You feeling twisted, Tanner?
I'm overly twisted, I think.
Okay.
I've been watching a lot of tornado content this week, and I think I've seen too many. Yeah, what'd you think of the movie, Chris?
Man, yeah, I think so. We watched this twice, like I said at the beginning, and I think my expectations coming in were for kind of a campy, over the top blockbuster, and they didn't hire that director or make that movie really. It's like a love story with tornado chasing as kind of the backdrop for it. And so I think when we left the theater, I was like pretty disappointed. And I was like kind of surprised the movie had ended. I thought they were going to go back and fight one more or something.
Granted, we
but
missed
watching it,
a lot of the beginning, so that's
this
why
is also
it ended
true.
so quickly. Yeah. It felt like.
Yeah, we missed a lot of the exposition at the beginning because
Apparently,
we showed up late.
Well,
But
the thing is, like, I've been trained by the movie theaters to show up 25. I mean, there's like 25 minutes of previews all the time. This did not have that. We showed up 20 minutes late, technically, but I was still expecting previews to be going. I don't know if it's the 40X or what, but maybe this preview thing. They don't have trailers in the preview, like a sneak preview or whatever of the movie. Anyway. So,
but regardless, I watched it a second time, and I think my expectations were in a better place the second time because I knew it wasn't going to have, cows flying through the air mooing at you, and it wasn't going to have houses rolling across the highway. The storm wasn't going to be following them. Like this was a much more like realistic take on what a tornado would be. And I liked it a lot more. It's a very different movie from the first one, and I think I like it for different reasons. But I think going in with the right kind of set of expectations, I did enjoy it quite a bit more. And I don't think I'll be able to say that I liked it more than the one from 96 because I just love that movie. And for what it is, it's campy and great. And the connection between those two actors is great. I also thought the connection between the actors in this movie was very good. But I think overall it was another fun watch, and it's making boatloads of money. So I'm sure we're going to get another one of these pretty soon.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah. So you liked it overall?
I thought it was, I thought it was okay. I'll give it a B.
There you go. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
How about you?
it's definitely competently made, and like it is a pretty good movie.
Hmm.
I was disappointed initially when I saw it as well because it's not like a big destruction, disaster movie exactly. It is more grounded in
Yes.
science. It's grounded in like a relationship stuff, a little bit more relationshipy drama, um, and romance. But that's this is the year of Glenn Powell, and he's got to have that, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think it makes it a more broad movie for larger audiences because of all that, and it's definitely working in that sense. But for me, it detracts a little bit from what I wanted in a spectacle
In a
movie like
disaster
this.
movie, a
Yeah.
spectacle disaster movie. Yeah, for sure.
So I can't really say it's like terrible. There's a lot of there's some cringy dialogue in moments like that. Um, but and I don't think I'll watch it again. It's not like something that I ever need to see again. I think like it's not like exciting enough or like unique enough for me to be like, oh, I'm gonna put on Twisters again. That's really you got to see this movie. It's so entertaining. I would
Yeah.
recommend it though in 4DX because it's probably the best 4DX movie. Well, one of the best I've seen, and maybe like 6 times I've seen it.
Okay.
Because it really does go along with like you said, the trucks driving and the wind and the rain are perfectly, mixed into this movie, and it really does like add to it. And
Definitely. Yeah.
most 4DX, I would say, is just kind of you're just getting punched and kicked around, and maybe some flashes, and it doesn't really feel like it. But this movie feels like it was kind of made for 4DX, in a good
Definitely.
way. So I would say if you're going to see it, definitely spend the extra money and go see it in 4DX because it makes it wildly entertaining in that sense. I just don't think overall it's like special enough to watch again. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people,
I thought it was fine. Mhm.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's agreeable. But yeah, I was going to say, last week I mentioned something, Chris, you were like, they just don't make big dumb movies like this anymore. And I said, well, and Twister's coming out next week, and you're kind of like, oh shit, I guess I don't know what I'm talking about. But you were right.
Mhm.
This movie isn't
Yeah.
that big dumb movie anymore. They did try to ground it in like
It's
I
a
was
character piece next to a tornado. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Much
Yeah.
like, they had Godzilla -1, which was like my favorite movie of 2023. Which is like it's so good. I love it so much. But they did this similar thing where it's like this love story and a great story as with Godzilla as the backdrop. But
Mhm.
they still did the awesome destruction and crazy moments and very great special effects. So like I feel like they kept that sense of craziness while also having this, whereas this one has that and doesn't have the same just like over the topness, which I think I needed for a movie like this.
It had a couple of those moments. I think the water
couple.
tower tipping over and the fire tornado was awesome,
Yeah.
but they didn't lean all the way into it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? They're
like that
brief
fire
moments.
tornado should have ripped through some shit. Like it should have
Yeah.
they should have
Set a
had
field on fire.
or a town. I mean, they could have
Mhm.
really went to town, if you will, with it.
I
But
will.
yeah. So like you mentioned, it's making a buttload of money. So it's about it costs. It said anywhere from 155 to 200 million. I'm going with 200 million. It's probably on the larger end. I don't know. But that's a big budget. And then it's made in one weekend. So basically 5 days, it's made $134 million worldwide.
Oh my.
Probably will do pretty well over the rest of the summer. They've got like Deadpool coming out, which will take away from it, but it's got a different angle than a Deadpool type movie. This movie, I think girls will go see it. Like it's a date movie because they have this romantic piece of it, and Glenn Powell's like the big heartthrob right now.
Yeah. And it's also a red state movie. It takes place in Oklahoma. There's a bunch of country music on the soundtrack. And so I feel like, sometimes when those movies come out and there hasn't been one in a while, like they can really, capture a lot of people's imagination. Yeah.
It's got the broad appeal big time.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, I assume, we might get a sequel, although my one thing is, Chris, they solved tornadoes. They figured it out. if you can stop tornadoes, how could you ever have a sequel?
This this is a great point.
There are no more tornadoes anymore. They've wrote themselves into a corner, and now that they can stop them, what do you think of that?
Well,
theory?
maybe now, then they have to use this technology to fight all the crazy tornadoes that we wanted, the Sharknadoes and the fire tornadoes and the rainbow tornadoes. They have to go out with their tech and their little company and go do that. Yeah. That's my guess. I have no idea though. You're kind of right. They solve tornadoes. They have the science to stop them now.
They basically made it so they can't make a sequel.
I bet they'll find a way.
No,
I bet they'll find a way. Yeah.
There definitely could be a sequel. Do you think there should be, Chris?
I think, like I was saying before, I would be more interested in some sort of storytelling where you get more on the team and the Storm Chaser stuff. So I would like to see like a mini series or an HBO series or like a Deadliest Catch style documentary. But I mean, money talks, and I think that this one is going to get a sequel, whether we want one or not.
Yeah, most likely.
What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, just what I was saying. Yeah, just I think it doesn't. I mean, I guess it could be them just going out and stopping tornadoes now that they have the technology, and then maybe it'll be a bigger destruction movie, but they are stopping them. Some of them they do stop, some of them they can't stop. Maybe they'll find a way to stop nukes from exploding at some point, by sending polymers into the air when a nuke goes off. I don't know. Who knows where it could go from there.
Also Stormpar is still out there. So I feel like they could be the villain in the next one in a very real way. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah. So
yeah, Chris, let's see. Do you have any? Well, we kind of talked a lot about the beef and the MVPs. Anything specific you want to talk about that you liked?
I thought both of the leads were great. I loved the truck drilling into the ground. I thought that was awesome. The fire tornado was great. I think those are probably my MVPs, some combination of those. My beef is just like, I think that my beef might even be just my own expectations. Like I was ready for a campy disaster movie, and this one, it isn't that movie, but if you know that going in, it's a pretty fun watch. And there's, I don't know. It's very well done for what it's trying to do. It's just like what it was trying to do wasn't what I was wanting to see. It wasn't houses rolling and cows flying through the air. Anyway, yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I think, let's see, the MVP and the beef might be the same for me in that it's like grounded in more science and, it's got this cool idea to stop tornadoes, and that's great, but it also works as a detriment to me, like from what I wanted, and that is what I wanted. I know expectations can be a tough thing to manage with any movie you're excited about or looking forward to, but I still wanted that after. Like I was very disappointed, in fact, with the fire tornado scene. Like that should have been its big moment of like, this is the big sequel moment. We've upped the game. They could have still had everything the same, just a little bit more out of it. I don't know. I still feel like the movie is a little bit mid. So I think my beef and the MVP are a gray area of the same thing. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. I'm following you.
Yeah. But overall, it's watchable. Chris, do you want to rank these two movies?
Well, with two movies, it's going to be pretty quick. And I think I already kind of tipped my hand. I just think I have so many memories of watching Twister as a kid. And, I think it's going to be hard for me to put this Glenn Powell piece over the top of that one. So I'm going Twister 1, then Twister 2.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Yeah.
Easy peasy.
Yep.
I do have a little bit of milk besides the Reed Timmer YouTube stuff, who, by the way, does have over 1 million subs, and there's tons of. I was sitting here. Okay, so I watched this movie called quote unquote movie called Twister 2: The Terror Continues, which we will not be covering because it's not a sequel to the movie. This is like some true milk, and it's not milk from the company, the franchise itself. It's just milk riding the coattails of the first movie. In that it was released on VHS, and I remember seeing it at like Blockbuster as a kid next to Twister. And it came out like a little bit after Twister came out on video, I believe. And it's literally just home footage from people that sent it in to something, and they compiled it. It's just home footage of tornadoes. That's it. It's like
that's the whole movie.
Well, yeah, if you want to call it that. It's an hour, a little over an hour long, and I found it online and watched like 20 minutes of it. And then, yeah, it's like early 90s, late 80s home videos of families like filming out their window and like letting it get pretty close. There's some crazy cool footage. Like if you're into that kind of stuff on YouTube or something like that, it's cool. And it's kind of fun little throwback, like seeing these early 90s videos of it and hear all these Southern people's accents, like, it's coming right for us, Ma, stuff like that. And the mom's like, Lord Jesus, Lord Jesus. So it's kind of like these crazy videos, but nothing like really violent or shocking like that. But it is like they took the name and were profiting off of the success of the movie, which is like,
definitely
that is our milk portion encapsulated right there. Whether or not it's from the franchise itself, they took the name and they added a 2 to it. Pretty bold move.
I'm surprised they didn't get sued for that. That feels like copyright infringement to me, but
I mean, it's so just like a nothing thing. It's just like a compilation. It feels like I wouldn't even call it a documentary because there's a little bit of narration here and there, but it's not like science. It's not like you're learning about anything. There's no point to it besides just, at least from what I saw, besides just showing crazy clips of home videos.
And I mean, maybe that's the only way you can get those home videos out there pre-YouTube when this sequel came out. You know what I mean? Yeah. Reed Timmer has all of these views now.
Yeah. I mean, it did feel like I was watching an early 90s, like cable special about tornadoes, kind of, where you're just seeing tornadoes. But then, like I said, after 20 minutes or so, I'm like, why am I watching these when I could just Google craziest tornado? And that's what I did. I just Googled or YouTubed craziest tornado, and I found like some crazy cool footage, like seeing tornadoes with debris. I hadn't really seen this in a long time. I'm sure I had in the past of tornado destruction, but it really is devastating. I don't know how much you've watched videos like that, but it was fascinating to see a little bit of these real tornadoes, and these storm chasers going in there and filming it. Do you? Yeah. I don't know if you've seen anything like that, but it's
I've seen a few of those videos. It's pretty crazy the destruction those things are capable of. They're nature's wild, man. Nature's wild.
Yeah. So, went on a little YouTube deep dive of that and the Twisters 2 movie. So that's my milk of the week. Yeah, there's also like a ton of knockoff movies I think we talked about last week, but I might watch something like that in between our so next week what we're going to do, we're taking a little break.
Summer break.
Little summer break, season break, whatever you want to call it. But next week, I think we're going to have an episode where we just read the survey and maybe talk about some other milk and stuff like that we can come up with for this. Have a little mini episode next week. Yeah?
I think that sounds great. Yeah. Little Twister recap, little season 2 recap. And then we'll take, a few weeks, maybe a month off before coming back with some new eps.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, that sounds great.
Anything else on Twisters or Tornadoes, Chris?
Nothing else from me. You got anything else? It sounds like you did a little more internet diving than I did this week.
Well, just some brief YouTube watching.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, and the Twister 2 thing, that's crazy. So, yeah, that's the episode. We'll be back with a recap and then back for season 3 or whatever you want to call it later on. Yeah?
Sounds great. Keep it twisted.
Keep it twisted. Have a good one, Chris. Bye.
Bye.